So, recently, the sequel to the Super Mario Bros. Movie by Illumination was announced, and I know there's some mixed but generally positive reception to that movie. Nintendo's clearly in the business of doing more movies, and I think they had a lot of fun doing the Mario movie. Clearly it was very successful, and recently there's been a lot of leaks and rumors that they're going to be doing a whole cinematic universe, and Illumination themselves might be making a Pikmin movie. Now, when I first heard this news, admittedly I was a little terrified, but I have been thinking about it, and I'm a lot more open to the idea recently. And who better to talk about this with than the prolific movie YouTuber DazzReviews, who, if you don't know, got his start doing Pikmin content. So, on that note...
Hello.
Hi! or should I say, what's up, guys?
Oh,
I know.
I've retired
Gotcha.
that years ago. I still have IRL friends that do plague me with it, though. That and the outro.
I will say, we did care. And I'm dragging you back tooth and nail into Pikmin.
Yeah, you are.
So, do you have any overall thoughts about this, the possibility of a Pikmin movie? And nothing's concrete yet.
Well, with anything Pikmin, I was a lovely, optimistic chap that had a million speculative ideas 12 years ago. But I've also been in the trenches of Pikmin dreaming for 12 years that I've grown into a senile, skeptical old man who's not even 30 yet. So when I hear the idea of, Illumination are making a Pikmin movie, I do everything I can to hold back any expectations to the point where I'm going to be not a Pikmin movie hater, but I'm like, this is not real, this will not be good, I have a million reasons why it can be disappointing, to hopefully believe, I guess, that it won't be, and then I'll be pleasantly surprised. But I do have a lot of thoughts that might be a little less optimistic than your average new Pikmin fan hoping for more things.
Well, honestly, that's where I'm coming from, too. Like, first things first, it's Pikmin, so obviously, if we're getting it, we're gonna have to wait 2 decades for it, because that's just, the standard is a decade wait, and the Mario movie took forever, right? So let's double it. But in all seriousness, on top of that, Illumination's track record has been something that's spotty, at best, at least in the animation world. But recently, they've been getting a lot of good press for their stance on things like AI and their treatment of their workforce compared to other animation companies. So, ethically speaking, it's probably great that it's rumored to be Illumination anyway. We don't know that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But, there was rumors around the time of the Mario movie that there was going to be new Pikmin short movies in front of the Mario movie, and those never happened. There's something to be said that the short movies already exist. So I guess my question is, if they really want to build a Smash Bros. Cinematic universe, which is a whole can of worms, do they even need a Pikmin movie?
Yeah, so actually that was probably going to be my main point of, we've already had the Pikmin shorts, and they work brilliant as they are, and I think if Nintendo was to make an actual new Pikmin cinematic experience, I think it should again only really be in the form of shorts. I think Pikmin as like a franchise to adapt to the big screen doesn't necessarily work for like a full 90-minute runtime, because it is so non-dialogue-y. You've got like, I guess, movies like WALL-E that can do no dialogue, but even then, they did it for like the first half, and then suddenly there were humans talking. And I think something would be lost if the Pikmin started speaking, or Olimar himself says anything other than his rambly, jumbled,
There, I'm Spot, Captain Olimar.
The idea of Illumination handling it actually as well, you said this earlier, I'm actually a lot more positive towards than I would have been 5 years ago when I was speculating like a Smash Bros. Cinematic universe. So I think like they could handle it well. Like I'm glad of the way, I really like how they did handle the Mario movie and the references and all the rest of that stuff. But I think I would agree that making Pikmin prevalent through shorts that go before a mainline movie would, to me, be the best case scenario. Because I think you could, as much as I'd love to see way more Pikmin stuff, I think they could very easily overstretch the IP and then suddenly lose quality in doing so.
I agree. And on top of that, not only did Nintendo recently acquire the studio that made the Pikmin short movies and turned them into Nintendo Pictures, which has done nothing so far, so very much they could be made to make more short movies, it wouldn't shock me, even if they're not Pikmin short movies. Like, I assume that's something along the roads Nintendo's going to do. I also want to point out that Miyamoto had a bunch of extra storyboards that he did in Flipnote Studio, of all things, for Pikmin short movies that never got used. That is, if you believe a rather dubious quality article from IGN from 2014 that says that there were between 20 to 30 short films, which I really have my doubts that that was right in a lot of ways, especially because they got some things really wrong in that article too. But let's assume that they are right. It's not like they'd have to really do much other than follow the same blueprint they had before, which, given Illumination's track record of doing things safe and by the book, that's kind of the perfect marriage, right? And at the same time, there's the question of why Pikmin, right? And it's a growing IP for Nintendo. They've acknowledged that. I'm going to be talking about that in a future video. But basically, Pikmin it's the rising star out of nowhere, which is great. Nintendo's considering it one of their big IPs now. It's growing. It's having the same kind of trajectory that Fire Emblem had when it blew up, but of course it's a first-party game. So it's really in a good spot. And on top of that, if you look at the Nintendo theme parks, right, it seems every IP they want to put in the theme parks is getting tied to a film. You have Mario and Donkey Kong, which are tied in with the Mario movie, basically to legitimize them. Pikmin's there, but it has short movies. And now, with the rumors of a Zelda expansion to the theme parks, with Aonuma being literally on the construction site and stuff, we're getting Zelda movies. So, I don't know, what do you think?
I think you raised some interesting points. I hadn't really heard of the theme park theory, I guess, as it were. But a lot of that does make sense, you know. I'm like hearing, obviously, there is the whole DK element that's getting its due in the Mario movie. I had no idea they were doing a Zelda expansion for the theme park, but it makes sense that they would.
It's rumored, right? So
I reckon, yeah. And similarly, though, I guess hopping on that as well, Pikmin's actual prevalence at the theme park, I don't think they've got their own actual super ride yet, do they? It's more like they're hidden.
They just have something small, yeah.
Which I think fits really well for like just sort of where, in my mind at least, Pikmin is in the zeitgeist of Nintendo's attention. Which again, I guess would make me want to say more that it's leading towards shorts or like a small bonus presence. Because, as you say, Illumination wants to go for something safe and easy. And though they could very easily reiterate like an old Miyamoto storyboard, I think I remember it vaguely because I made a video on it once. It was like a whole nother like Bulborb super boss fight sequence. And I feel like there was mud involved, but there might have just been the sketchy drawings that he made. But I also reckon that would go against Pikmin to a certain degree, in that I think, like, if Illumination is looking at all these Nintendo IPs, I think they will basically make, like, a priority list of what is the biggest and most successful. And though Pikmin is maybe a rising star in recent years, I mean, the sales for Pikmin 4 have been great, I think it's like saying it was 17th on the ranking of Nintendo products.
And now it's
raised all
11th.
the way to 11th. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's rising, that's great. But I think Illumination will be... Because it's already hard enough that Nintendo's taken 30-odd years to be convinced to do Pikmin. I think it convincing a studio like Illumination to make a dive on that, I think is a little bit more possible, but it would need at least 5 years in my brain to be on the register. Like, I reckon it will be, here's Mario movie, here's Zelda movie, here's some collab crossover they'll try to do with Pokemon, and then they'll consider a minor Smash Bros. Collab. And then it'll be Pikmin. You know, it's like a Phase 2 movie, if there was a cinematic universe.
I think you're absolutely right. And if we're talking cinematic universe building, which I hate that
Everybody's
we're talking
doing
cinematic
it.
universe
They're
building, honestly. Everyone's
Dr. Seuss
doing
has
it.
just announced a cinematic universe. So.
I have to bring it up. The Pooniverse of slasher Disney adaptations that are in the public domain, you know, so it's...
Yeah.
Oh.
What a time to be alive.
Indeed. But I guess if we're talking about a, in quote, Smash Bros. Cinematic universe, Pikmin is the kind of thing that they probably would want to put in the crossover first, and then spin it off to get more eyes on it. Which I wouldn't be shocked by, but who knows? I mean, I argue that making a Smash Bros. Movie is a harder sell than trying to make a Pikmin movie, plot-wise. Especially because Pikmin 4, and actually, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. If they wanted to make a Pikmin movie, Pikmin 4 is the perfect engine for that movie, because it's a remake/retelling of Pikmin 1's story, but with a lot of added elements. So, if you wanted the movie to only cover the plot of Pikmin 1, you now have all of the Pikmin types, right? You have the marketable dogs, which give them to Illumination, and you're gonna get some Secret Life of Pets
Secret Life
tier.
of Pets, but again, yeah.
Although,
I mean, they already have a dog in the Mario movie, so they love their dogs.
I do worry, though, if we have all the Pikmin types, and we give them to the studio that makes Minions, like, maybe, I mean, if they keep the charm of, like, the silent Pikmin protagonist, I think Illumination could do really well. But one Rock Pikmin voiced by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I'm out. I am out. Like, that's,
gosh,
they need to
I
be
can see it.
roughly silent.
They'll have Ice-T playing the Ice Pikmin on the side.
Okay, I'm on board with that. That sounds great.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because at the same time, I almost feel like there's room for like I don't know, Pikmin as minions is an interesting one because obviously the way that they present themselves in the Pikmin shorts is like a lot more cutesy rather like it's a lot more. I feel like Minions comedy, like the way they present themselves is so like slapstick. It's a lot more like boisterous. I almost feel like. Whereas, like, I almost feel like Pikmin could be, like, a more feminine lens of the Minion vibe, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
You know, it's more dainty and, like, communal as opposed to sort of every Minion boy for himself that kind of the Minions vibe has. I feel like there's some sort of room that Illumination can do, and if all of all studios that should handle a big collage of the same duplicate person, Illumination is the most familiar with it. It really, I think it comes down to how much influence and demand would Miyamoto have in the studio's team, because clearly he is very involved with every project so far. He was very informative for how the Mario movie needed to present itself. So I think it's kind of just a matter of how much can Miyamoto rein Illumination back in that way.
Well, that's something interesting, is the Mario movie, I have famously gone on record and said that I love the first 15 minutes of the Mario movie, and then it's downhill once you enter the Mushroom Kingdom. And I think that's for a couple reasons. Number one, I would watch Mario and Luigi try to start a failing plumbing business for hours. That's just such a good premise.
It's also a sign of getting old.
Yeah.
You got to think of the 5-year-olds. They want to see the jumping on blocks, I guess.
I get it, but I also think that the chemistry between Charlie Day and Chris Pratt was really good as Mario and Luigi, and then they split them up immediately for most of the movie. And once they get back together, I'm like, yes, this is what I was hoping for. So I'm really excited that hopefully in the sequel they do not lock up Luigi again, because
I agree. I think it's like... Yeah. It was, to me, I saw it as like a necessary evil to lead up to the real story, which is the sequel. Because I think it was very clear that the reason they locked up Luigi was because they didn't want to lock up Peach and then make, here's a female classic damsel in distress, considering she's like one of the originals. So it made more sense to sort of modernize it and lock Luigi. And now he's available with Mario. I think like that's what I'm looking forward to for the sequel, is the brotherly connection going forwards there. As long as they don't lock Mario up into a painting. You know, I would love a Luigi's Mansion movie, but then Mario's gone the whole time, so... But that's its own.
If they do that, it should just be a Luigi's Mansion movie, which is totally possible within the Smash Bros. Cinematic universe, in air quotes, that, we've been talking about. And actually, to talk about that kind of intro into the real guts of the movie, I could see Pikmin having a really cool, mostly silent, maybe just Olimar's narration, retelling of Pikmin 1 as like the opening part of a movie that's really artsy, and it's just him trying to get off the planet. And then you start the real plot when he goes back to the planet, and we're into Pikmin 2, baby! We're in debt! We're going to the planet! We gotta make the Pikmin get treasures, and then it can just be cutesy Pikmin fun times. And what even is the Pikmin timeline anymore? Yeah. It doesn't matter. They can just play with the world, and I think that would be the very best way to do it.
Yeah, a quick retelling is an interesting spin of it, of tell the entire plot of the first movie in a nice, it's almost like an up sequence, the whole here's the entire backstory.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you think of the story of the Pikmin games, they are so much 80-90% gameplay. The plot is almost non-existent. It's let's pick up this item, then they picked up this item, and then they picked up this item. There was an enemy, a creature. Indeed. And then there was an item. And so, it's an interesting it's not really a plot, which I think makes sense for why the Pikmin shorts were so slice of life, almost unattached to this gigantuan mission that they had to handle. Again, it just makes me think, if it is a quick 5-10 minute recap, that's again a short for the beginning of a different movie, or if it was told in the middle of a story that's separate. Like if they were doing a Smash story and like they keep cutting to characters, and then the plot of Pikmin 1 is occasionally just scattered in there as like Scrat from Ice Age, where he, the rest, Sid the Sloth is going on his commute, and he just cut back to the saber-toothed squirrel with a nut. And it's just like a little piece of what they're doing on the side. It would make it 90 minutes just by splitting it up.
And that's the question, right? Is it the kind of thing where, and I guess inevitably, right? If there was a Smash Bros. Cinematic Universe and it did really well, you're gonna see a Pikmin spin-off. Because if it's, if you're saying it's 11th on the list of priorities, which is a number we've just pulled out of nowhere, inevitably 11 films in, if they're looking for content, they're going to be making Pikmin. So even if this discussion isn't relevant now, it's probably relevant at the time of the movie being made, right? And there's one thing I want to bring up that, assume it's an inevitability and they're going to make the film. What does it actually look like as a standalone thing? And I think there's something to the vignette approach of the beginning into kind of the broader Pikmin plot. Yeah, there's a lot of questions of, are the Pikmin voice acted? Hopefully not. I mean, you could have celebrity voice actors and pitch them up in the way that Pikmin voices are created in game. I worry about that. But you could. How would it be presented? Like that kind of thing. Just assume it's an inevitability at some point.
Yeah, well, the question I would sort of want to retort with that to start opening that conversation is, we know that like Nintendo set up, I think it's called Nintendo Productions for like their Nintendo movies. Do we know if they are entirely locked into Illumination or wanted to spin off? Is the Zelda live action someone else? It's not Illumination.
I think it's someone else.
Then makes me think there's a lot more potential, because I do not think the Illumination approach would handle a Pikmin movie well.
Agreed.
Because their demographic is so young and slapstick and maddening, I think like Pikmin is too slow and artsy and beautiful, I think.
And mature and all
yeah, and actually like when you think about it, like you can't show the minions being eaten in the hundreds.
You absolutely could. Just tell me Dr. Nefaria would not eat a minion. No, actually, never mind. I take that back. You're absolutely right.
Like, yeah, they could only get whacked, and, I mean, they could do a good slapstick joke, but like, yeah, because like when I remember the Pikmin short number 3, where a genuine like, here's a decapitated leaf, essentially.
Yeah.
I think if they did make it, it would definitely be a Nintendo production collabing with someone else entirely. In fact, I tell you, like, if I'm trying to think like what studios would be interesting, right? Because on the top of my head, I'd obviously be like, oh, Pixar, do something photorealistic, beautiful and nice. It's like a short or a whatever, doesn't matter.
But that almost never will happen.
No.
Creative control-wise. Yeah.
What I could see happening is if they went extra hard on the artsy factor and made it like some sort of stop motion movie. Like they went to Leica, or they went to like the likes of Aardman, glay it together.
Like the Pikmin 2 like promotional stuff.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
so cool.
And like some of their Japanese commercials as well. It's like the clay aesthetic, or whether it's clay or like genuine. I don't know what they're made of, but like the Pirates movie and Coraline as well could also do something like that. Because then I could really see an accurate like model for Olimar and like live action leaves that they're interacting with. And then stuff happening. I feel bad for the animators having to manually do 100 Pikmin for every single frame, but,
They probably wouldn't for most of it, to be completely honest.
Yeah, that's true, actually. And also, I guess, like, Aardman as well do CGI movies that look like the sort of stop-motion effects. So it would probably be more some sort of hybrid there. But I think for actual, like, aesthetics that they could realistically present Pikmin, that would probably be one of my bigger shouts. Just super artsy crap, basically.
You could totally get that artsy, like, up opening that we've been talking about if the focus was on, look how pretty this planet is for all of 15 minutes in, like, a claymation style, especially if they did claymation filmed in real, like locations.
Photorealistic sets.
Yeah, which could be really cool.
We're basically just sort of describing a WoodenTurtle YouTube video.
It's so true. Which, shout out to WoodenTurtle, that is the single most insane output from a Pikmin channel I've seen, period. The amount of work that goes into those animations is so evident, and the frequency that they release and the quality that they release at just blows my mind. I can struggle all I want to get out a video a week, and then I look over the WoodenTurtle's channel and some crazy new amazing video has released. Like, bravo, my friend.
I would not be surprised if they actually end up being on the Nintendo production team making this kind of thing. If this is like the timeline that's 7 years away, I can see WoodenTurtle being noticed. Like that's their resume right there. They can easily go into the actual animation field, you know, indie or not, and then it's all lined up already. We're watching the previews every week as far as I'm concerned over there.
So we're talking about the good ending right now.
Yeah.
Where a competent studio, a really competent studio, with a lot of loving care, makes a very artsy Pikmin movie. But what if we go to Illumination again? And again, I'm not trying to trash on Illumination. I think they do a lot of things really right. But just assume that Illumination contractually is paid a lot of money and asked to do a Pikmin movie and has no interest in doing it. But they do it anyway because a number of factors. What does that look like? I want to say that it hit me the other day, and one of the things that sparked me wanting to do this video is, you know how the Mario movie got 80s pop hits put into it?
Uh-huh.
And it feels like thematically inappropriate in a lot of places, but it's like, oh, well, Mario was an 80s game, so 80s pop hits. So Pikmin, right, is a 2000s game. And I had the thought of Olimar getting the bad ending after a montage of trying to escape, put to Linkin Park's In the End.
God.
Or some other, like, 2000s, like, classic, and I hate it. But it's so funny.
I'll tell you what, I don't even think that's the worst case scenario, to be honest. Because I would argue that actually, if Illumination was to handle the soundtrack to the Pikmin movie, I think, unfortunately, it would be a lot less creative. Because I think that was almost like, that's enjoyable, ironically, at least. Like, that's stupid fun. I think, with like the way, this is more like a general societal thing, our like perceptions of nostalgia, like, you know, everything's a reboot these days. I also think our perception of nostalgia has also frozen. We're not really making early 2000s reboots and like nostalgia beats. It's still just the 80s, and I feel like because Illumination wants to follow what's safest and easiest, they will just make a Guardians of the Galaxy clone. That's what so many of these like this new era of superheroes are just being like, oh, Guardians did great with 80s soundtrack, plug in an 80s soundtrack. The Mario movie did it too. I think it would be that they would be like, oh, well, he's in space. We need Spaceman, you know, get a little bit of you know, Rocket Man in there.
Then
it would be right back to the 80s because that has shown to work before.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, but that's what I see.
I'm now really glad Chris Pratt's Mario, so we don't get Chris Pratt as Olimar.
Well, I mean, they're just anagrams, so it will probably just still be Chris Pratt. He'll just...
Oh, we'll get Chris Pine instead.
Yeah,
and I'm actually...
That'd be good.
I kind of would love a Chris Pine Olimar, not gonna lie. That sounds hilarious, but...
So, I've been talking about the Mario movie for years now. When I ascended the Pikmin content, I became Nintendo content. And in the Nintendo content, I started talking about a Nintendo cinematic movie universe. So, I don't know how old the video is now, and I don't know where to find it, but I made like a video about how to do a Smash cinematic universe. I still think there will eventually be a Smash movie, and I think, but it will be completely like a different spin to anything else Smash related, because I think how like the first Smash game on the 64 was it 8 or maybe 12 characters, but it was like, sure, some of the most popular and Ness, but I feel like there could be a movie version that would be actually the 8 most important Nintendo popular characters.
Maybe from that roster too.
Yeah, and like... I feel like they would replace Ness. Like, Ness ain't getting to the big screen, you know? You can maybe even forget... Samus... Maybe Samus can survive, but whatever, you know, it's...
No, Samus is making it in, played by Brie Larson, and you know what's gonna happen. There's no world where that doesn't happen. It's Brie Larson, Samus, or bust. Like, that's what Nintendo's gonna do. You just know it. Prove me wrong, world.
But anyway, looping back to the Smash movie, I think, like... There could be a spin where, like, Pikmin might be, like, 8th on the list and gets in. They'll have their own sort of logistical issues, like, if I mean, it'd be really great if they do actually each have their own art styles, just full artsy, and Pikmin's just there in its stop motion alongside CGI Star Fox. And also, sizing would be its own issue with Smash, because I don't know how on earth they'd handle any of that. But
they could do multi-dimensional portals that bring them in. They're dragged in by Master Hand, and they're all put into the same art style, and then bam, you got your movie.
Yeah, I mean, what they'd probably do is they'd make it a multiverse story where everyone goes into everyone else's worlds with the same art style. So then we see Mario.
That's actually
cool. You see Mario suddenly in stop motion, and he's suddenly 8-bit or something like that. Or every portal will be the pixel 8-bit Mario head, probably. You know, like just. I think there's like. As much as it's like there's loads of ways you can do it and mess it up and it's all stupid and ironic and there'll be more Chris Pratt and he'll be talking to all the classic stupid celebrity cast acting roles, I think a Smash movie is probably inevitable because of how popular it is as a Nintendo product, and Nintendo and Illumination will presumably be like just going down the list. I don't think it's any time soon. I think like this would be something we can talk about in 5 years to learn that it's coming out in 3 years.
Yeah, oh sure.
But like, I think there's potential. But when looping back to Pikmin, I'm just skeptical. I think Miyamoto really wants to make it, and like it's clearly a rising star, but I kind of feel like it's the world versus Miyamoto on it. Pikmin is like his golden child, and I think a lot of people around him don't recognize Pikmin as highly as he does, so that maybe it'll eventually get made, but we got to go right down that priority list and then find a way to do it that's artsy and not terrible, which is asking a lot in this modern animation movie industry.
And I think that's ultimately the end goal, right? To have a Pikmin movie that has 3 things. First, releases, which is more than I can say for the Pikmin games half the time. So that's obstacle 1. Obstacle 2 is good and is well made, and 3 helps build the brand in a way that doesn't permanently damage it, if that makes sense. In a way that if Pikmin is presented in a certain way in the films that is away from the way it's presented in the games, for example, just assume it's more minion-y and they're given voices and more slapstick, that doesn't affect the games in a way where the movie comes back to haunt the series or change the series in a way where it's not what it used to be because of the movie. That would be the third caveat I want, because you could have a good Pikmin movie that is bad for Pikmin overall, right?
Yeah, like a Game Theory releasing on Pikmin.
Which never happened. Yeah. He retired before it happened, and you know, I love MatPat, but I'm really glad that didn't happen.
The Umibozu theory is enough of a plague on the franchise.
Hey, Umibozu fact.
That's
it was
true.
Confirmed.
Yeah.
Whether or not we came up with it, and then the developers later were like, "Hey,
yeah,
this
that makes
is cool."
sense. Yeah, go for it.
Or they had it planned, which I'm very much on the side of they had it planned, which I'll be talking about in a future video.
I mean, an Umibozu plotline for a movie would be the next best thing. Extra niche, extra fanny, but like, you know, instead of a short of the plot of Pikmin 1, it is the short, or the whole premise of this monster is chasing Olimar afterwards, and it's like that epilogue or something.
We wait 10 years after Pikmin 4, right, to finally get 20 years after Pikmin 3 what the something went terribly wrong was, and it comes out of a Pikmin animated movie by Illumination. Could you imagine?
That is a timeline possibility, you know.
And we're talking about In the End, the Linkin Park song, which, mind you, I do genuinely love that song, but it does not fit with Pikmin.
Yeah.
Imagine they go to fight the Plasm Wraith stand-in, Titan Dweevil, doesn't matter, and you just hear do, 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 and it's just...
I can't wait for Let the Bodies Hit the Floor on a montage of all the Pikmin being decimated.
Oh my god! It's the Emperor's fault! No! We get... When did Darude's Sandstorm come out? And can it be licensed for a groovy long leg? That's what I need to know.
That says, 1999/2000. 2000.
Oh, it's just in time.
I think it works, yeah.
But let the bodies hit the floor, though. The Water Wraith would let the bodies hit the floor.
No.
Yeah,
or it would be the Man at Legs. Well, at the very least, we'll see how how highbrow a potential Pikmin project can be after seeing the other side of the Zelda movie and whatever else they have lined up. You know, because like maybe it'll all be ruined from here on. Maybe the sequel of Mario is awful, and then we'll hate the Zelda movie, and then everyone's like, Nintendo, give up, and then it will fade away. It's all potential right now.
Well, what do you think? Do you think we're going to get a Pikmin movie? Do you think that it's going to be made by Illumination? Do you think it has the potential to be good? Do you think that you have your own funny spot where you could put Linkin Park's In the End in this Pikmin movie? Because apparently that's a really important point on my list of things to talk about. Let me know in the comments below. My name is Vantage. Thank you so much for joining me, Dazz.
Thank you for having me.
Please, if you haven't seen Dazz before, check out his channel here in the iCard, and also like at the end of the video and in the description. It's all over. I doubt that anyone who watches me doesn't watch you already, but if you do, go look at Dazz's channel. Dazz is a classic Pikmin YouTuber turned film YouTuber who does so much cool stuff. If you have any interest in, I don't know, trashing on Megamind 2, for example, this is the place to go.
And Pikmin's following me, hopefully, eventually. If they make this Pikmin movie, then they've just moved to the same boundary that I've moved to. It all works out.
Exactly. Alright, well, my name's Vantage.
And my name's been Dazz.
Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Cheers!
Bye-bye!